Welcome back to the Business Forum Show. I'm Kevin Hunter. My guest in studio, Dennis Gallenberg and Kimberly Gallenberg from Barrington Oaks Veterinary Hospital. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Hello. Thank you.
So get us started by talking a little bit about the history of Barrington Oaks Veterinary Hospital, because you've had this organization for 20 years now, right? Or 20 plus years?
20 plus years.
20 plus years.
1986.
Oh, 1986. Okay, so yes, beyond that. So what were you doing prior to opening up the veterinary hospital?
I graduated in 1983 from the University of Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
and at that point, I was interested in large animal medicine, meaning dairy cattle, etc.
Sure.
I got a job in Cold Spring, Minnesota, and that was a multi-doctor practice. And at that point in time, we did everything there: cows, pigs, horses, sheep, chickens, dogs, cats, everything. And we were on call on the weekends, and we rotated calls at night. And after a year, I decided, well, if I was going to stay there, I needed to purchase in or buy into that practice. Well, the buy-in dollars were far beyond what I could afford. So I was entrepreneur enough to say, well, maybe I can go do this on my own.
Sure.
Without really knowing what I was getting into. And from there, then I went up to Turtle Lake, Wisconsin for a year, practice there, which was strictly a bovine practice, dairy cattle.
Sure.
And after that, then I started looking. And at that point in time, I drove over to Elk River because, long story short, my wife, who was not my wife at that time, happened to be working in Elk River, and said, well, if you're looking for a place, maybe Elk River would be it. So one Sunday we drove over, and right now where the current McDonald's is at, and none of that along 169, Highway 169, none of those businesses were there back then.
Oh, sure. That had to be when there was all hay fields and cornfields.
Well,
right?
it had been some development, but not. The only thing that was there was the Kentucky Fried Chicken and the apartment buildings.
Right.
And we drove by, and here and behold, the building that we're presently in and have been since day one was just being built, and there's a big sign out front that said for rent. So foolish enough, I called the person and talked to him, and he said, you're exactly what we're looking for. We wanted to make this a professional building, and let's talk business, and that was the beginning.
So are you still leasing the building now, or did you decide to buy it?
We're still leasing. Our landlord has been exceptionally
Perfect.
gracious to us over the years and kept our lease very affordable for us, to the point that I really couldn't afford to buy versus what I was leasing for.
Sure.
So
The other thing that I didn't ask the question because I thought you should have bought it. I asked it because there's actually many organizations that are in a situation where they do own facilities, and for tax reasons or a lot of other reasons in their organization, maybe relocating the business might be a smart thing for them, but because they're tied in with this, having to sell a facility as opposed to getting out of a lease that, is something that, stops at some point. I actually really like the idea of leasing a business if it makes financial sense for you to, as opposed to owning a facility.
I punched the numbers recently because I've been asked that multiple times by multiple people. Why not buy a building, put a new place up? Well,
Sure.
number one is our location, and they say location is everything. If I may say, we're right next to McDonald's, and so when we have to tell people where we're at, everybody knows where we're at.
Sure.
Plus, we're on Highway 169, and we get tons of traffic, and we have frontage, and we get tons of traffic, so we have great exposure, and it was hard to beat that. And I actually punched the numbers here recently over what I've paid for rent versus what the landlord tells me they're paying in taxes, and over that amount of time, I would have broke even. And even if I was to turn around and sell the building right now for what he says it's valued at, I would have broke even. So maybe in the long run, yeah, we might have, should have, could have, but I didn't. And
Yeah.
so
Makes sense. So, Kimberly, you then joined in this business shortly after Barrington opened. Were you also in the veterinary practice?
Yes, I was working at a different practice in Elk River right out of vet school, worked there for a year, and then went down to a exclusively small animal practice in Golden Valley. And we were dating at that point. And then in 1986, we got married after he established Barrington Oaks. And several months after that, I was still working in Golden Valley then for 2 years. And after that, then it was, we might as well take the plunge and try and have both of our livings be off the practice.
Sure, sure. So I'm curious. Obviously, you've been around for, well, going on, I said it was over 20 years initially, but you're actually going on your very close to a 30-year anniversary with this organization. So talk a little bit about the first 3 to 5 years in the business and some of the challenges you had getting it established.
Initially, it was myself and one receptionist technician. And so we did everything. I remember my very first patient was not what I expected it to be. It was a cockatiel that unfortunately was dead on arrival, but that's what it was. So, and over that time, I answered phones. We did everything. And then from there, we added more staff over that first year. I think by the second year, I had a receptionist and a full-time technician, and then from there we've just been adding staff, and Kim joined me a couple years down the line and we added more staff, etc. So it's just been a slow building process.
So how many members are in the business altogether? Because you have both the Elk River and a Princeton location, right?
Correct. We have 4 doctors at our Elk River location and 1 full-time doctor at our Princeton location.
Okay.
And we actually have 6 now because we've just recently started doing Saturday and Sunday hours.
Wow.
So that's another topic.
So you're like 7 days a week now.
We're 7 days. Never thought it would be that, but unfortunately, well, that's where the business is headed. That's
Sure.
People are available at that time, so we're a service-oriented business. Is it when I want to be there? Probably not, but that's what we are. So,
So what do you think about the 7-day work week, Kim?
I'm available, but I tell them when I'm not going to come in. So I'm very available by phone, and our newest doctors will feel free to call us as needed. And we're there a huge number of hours during the week, but we're sort of we've got an established technician who's been with us a long time, and she works the Saturday and Sunday hours as her regular shift, and so she's able to help with the other doctors and staff. And then we've been open on Saturday mornings always from 9 to noon, and so we added the Saturday afternoon and then the all-day Sunday here just a couple months ago, and so it seems to be going okay.
Well, dealing with people's animals, you have to have had some interesting stories to share. You talked about the cockatiel that arrived dead on arrival, your first customer. but share some of the stories that you've enjoyed in particular that you've interfaced with over the last 27 years dealing with people's animals.
Well, the most recent one is we're the impound for the city of Elk River also. And we've been doing that from way back when the city of Elk River's police department was actually in the building behind our current building on Dodge Avenue.
Sure.
They were back there at one point. And so we've been taking animals for a long time. Well, recently we had a little kitty come in that had been attacked by a dog. Yeah, and somebody saw it, and etc. So the police brought it in. Well, we were able to, and that was just last week. And so I was able to pin that cat's leg, little kitty's leg, and the cat's doing really very fine. So that's, to me, that's, granted it's very current, but it's one of the things that's very rewarding is when you can do something like that. And there again, that stuff's at our own expense, etc. But we're just kicking back and saying, hey, if we can do this for one animal, well, great. Other than that, Kim, maybe you have.
I like some of the exotics. We do bird work and reptile work, and I know recently, just last week, we had a rescued chicken be brought in because it got attacked by its new flock mates and had to suture its head. And then in the middle of winter, again, as the impound for the city of Elk River, they brought in 2 large snakes that had been found
wow.
dead or presumed dead
Actually,
on the side
there
of the
was an
road.
article in the paper
On
about
the
them,
side of
wasn't
the
there?
road,
Yeah.
yes. They brought them in, and we looked at them, and they were stiff, and it's, well, let's put them in a bag and, bye-bye. No, let's put them in a bag and put them in some warm water.
Mm-hmm.
And within 5 minutes, they went from stiff to wriggling and alive.
Wow.
And they were almost 6-foot snakes. We found homes for them. And that was fun.
Very nice. Kevin Hunter here on the Business Forum Show. My guests are Dr. Dennis Gallenberg and Dr. Kimberly Gallenberg from Barrington Oaks Veterinary Hospital. You can find them at bovh.com on the web. Again, Kevin Hunter on the Business Forum Show. Back in a moment.